I want to bring in Chief Economist at Texas Public Policy Foundation and former OMB official Vance Ginn to talk more about what to expect. Hi, Vance. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Greta. It's great to be with you today.
Well, let's go ahead and start with the recent rise in coronavirus cases. President Trump attributing that increase to testing. Most regions that are seeing more cases are not necessarily seeing a very large jump in hospitalization or a large increase in deaths from the virus. But the increase has still prompted some local leaders to slow down their reopening process. Texas Governor Greg Abbott talking about possibility of having to do that there in your state. How will this step backward affect the economy in those regions?
Well, I think what we've shown here in Texas is that there's a success story to be told whenever you have an economy that's opening up again. We've been phasing out for quite a while now. Testing is up quite a bit. We have seen some increases in cases and hospitalization, which is to be expected as you are opening up. But look, hospital capacity continues to be at a high of around 25%, meaning there's a lot of availability as there's been dramatic increases in the capacity of hospitalizations across the state. And so, of course, we'd love to see cases and deaths at zero, and hopefully we get to that point soon. But unfortunately, that's not where we're at just yet. And so we've got to do the best that we can, given the circumstances, to make sure that we look at the lives and livelihoods of all Texans and really all Americans at the end of the day.
With Congress and the White House set to begin negotiations on another round of stimulus next month, what do you think should be the focus to really stimulate the U.S. economy as we emerge from this virus?
I think the first thing we need to do is look at phasing out the shutdowns. I mean, getting people back to work, getting them back to their livelihoods should be the -- thing. And then you should think about some pro-growth sort of policies. We've looked at here at the Texas Public Policy Foundation of suspending the payroll taxes for the rest of the year. We've also looked at something called the Workplace Recovery Act, which would provide funding to businesses that have net operating losses during this time. So that way they can be in operations and hire workers. That's really the best way to get people back on their feet. Families having more income to put food on the table and everything else that's been kind of turned around during this whole time. I really call this the Great Disruption, right? It's disrupted our lives. And how do we get past it? Well, it's by getting back to what we do best, which is being innovative, by not overdoing things and putting in perverse incentives that keep people from working. That's really how we can get the economy restarted again.
You mentioned the idea of suspending the payroll tax cut. President Trump has discussed that. Many economists that are, kind of advising the president speaking about that as well, Stephen Moore, aren't laugher. Why does something like that push people to return to work and help more Americans than, say, a one-time check of $1,200?
Well, with the payroll tax from the employer side and the employee side, you give the employer more liquidity, right, to go out and hire those workers again. And at the same time, it incentivizes workers on the supply side for them to continue to work, to get more of their paycheck in their pocket, and allow for them to save, invest, and do that sort of thing, along with allowing businesses to invest in their business and then grow it over time. And that will allow them to hire more workers in the process. Whereas if you give somebody, a check, well, for one thing, if they're still locked down, it makes it difficult to go out and buy things. But at the same time, if a business isn't operating, supply side must come first, right, before you can consume something. We've really got to get the supply side going, and I think the way that you really do that is by allowing for net operating losses to be covered, which is something that we're considering here at the Texas Public Policy Foundation on the Workplace Recovery Act that I hope will be looked at by Congress over time.
And many economists are still forecasting a strong rebound later this year. President Trump says 2021 could be the best year ever. What are you expecting to see when we get back to, a normal economy in the U.S. with ramped up consumer activity?
Yeah, hopefully that's sooner rather than later, right? And what I think we've seen so far is that the states that are phasing out their shutdowns are beginning to see more job creation. That was shown just last week with the state and local jobs report out of the BLS. Places like Texas were expanding at about twice the rate over a month-to-month basis than places like California, which are taking time, right, to phase these things out. And unfortunately, that will lead to some disparities. When you see places that are slower to phase out, we'll see a slower job creation and lower income growth as well. Is if you see those places that are opening up faster, they'll have more job creation and more income growth. And so once we can get into a place where there are fewer shutdowns overall and more pro-growth policies in place, I think we'll see more job creation, more income growth, and more prosperity. And that's really what we're here, to talk about, is the lives and livelihoods of all Texans and all Americans across this great country. And that's really what we've got to look forward to here. And hopefully they will be better, have better health overall as well.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.